How can you develop your creative confidence? Finding the answer could just change your marketing. In episode 46 of the Employer Content Marketing Pod, I chat with Jasper Marriott, dancer, actor, teacher, long-distance runner and magician. Jasper has loads of experience on the stage that we can all learn from to help us develop our creative confidence. It's all about having that magic mindset. We cover a whole range of topics, and Jasper even does a magic trick at the end of the episode to blow my mind. Let's get on with the chat. Hi Jasper, how you doing?
I'm great. It's really good to speak to you, Chris.
Yeah, you too, absolutely. And what part of the country you video calling in from?
Sunny Morecambe, down by the sea. So a rare
stuff.
Break in the clouds at the moment, which makes it look glorious here.
Well, I'm as usual, as often is the case, down in Enfield Town in North London at the Content Marketing Pod's Towers, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to catch up. I really appreciate it. I know you're in between your busy day.
Yeah,
busy
I mean,
day.
on our conversation we started last time. I've been
absolutely.
thinking things through, and it's been pretty inspirational, to be honest. So good to catch up a bit more.
Well, let's kick off by just telling listeners a bit about yourself.
Okay, sure. So it's difficult to know where to start and which picture to paint, really, because there's many facets of what I do. But so my background is in theatre. So originally contemporary dance. I trained as a dancer, and then worked and toured nationally, internationally for many years on stage. What we'd call now as physical theatre, as an actor, dancer, physical performer. And then moved into teaching, which is an obvious route for someone who's reaching a point in the career, either sick of touring or getting to a point where the body doesn't work as well as it used to. And I've been teaching performing arts and being a choreographer on shows and TV stuff, relating to that area for a while. But parallel to that, since the very beginning, I've also been a magician, which is kind of where we connected and talked about stuff. And it's never been a hobby. I'll put that out there because I don't kind of buy into hobbies. I just always feel it's another tool, and it's and so often where there'll be a skill or something I'm working on that will pop up as the most useful thing in a moment, and magic's been like that forever. So it's it's a side hustle. Some people call them. I've earned money from it. It's gone into my stage work. I use it in lots of different ways, and now I'm kind of at a turning point, which I've been maybe once before, but taking magic that little step further. And this time wanting to take it a big step further and really make it my main hustle. And this is where I want to be going, moving into full-time. I call it magic, but it's actually, for me, it's a lot more than that. The magic is an element of the kind of communication and working.
So when we're chatting about doing this episode, we've been kind of going back and forth about topic, and so I just knew that with your background in magic and performance, there was something really interesting there, and we kind of together came up with this thing, which is kind of this having this magic mindset to do things differently.
Yeah, so I think what's interesting is where we both connected. The reason that we ended up speaking to each other, apart from a bit of business that we were dealing with, we were connecting on the fact that I was looking at doing something new and unique, something that hasn't necessarily been tried and tested, and it's not a model out there. And also, it was my brother that put me into contact with you, and we'd been talking about, what is this thing? What is this? Trying to define it and trying to work out what it is. And he'd said, I know someone you need to speak to. And that was you. And that was because of the fact that and which I love, the fact that he's just going, you're thinking, trying to do something differently, think differently. This is the man you need to speak to, and absolutely true. So it was really cool. But so the idea that as opposed to doing something, whether it's in magic or whether it was in performance, whether it's in business, that there isn't necessarily a model out there for you to pick off the shelf and just do, which kind of comes down to the creative element as well. I'm trying to be creative with something, and what does that mean? Trying to create something new, or quite often that means bringing different elements that don't normally sit together. It's very difficult to make something completely new, but finding ways of thinking about things and then having the faith in it, really having the faith that that's possible, and that's, it's okay to do that. It's okay to think different. It's okay to be the one out there trying something differently and making it work. I think that's where we're at. There's an interesting thing in theatre, because in theatre it's all about doing something new. Even if you're doing a play or a piece of dance or a piece of music, you'll end up in court if you're doing even a line from someone else's song. That happens all the time. Ed Sheeran's in court at the moment for sounding like someone else. And stand-up comedy is a great example of that. You don't do other people's material. You really don't. Magic's interesting because there's actually magic shops built on other people's material you can buy and just do.
Okay.
And a magic book will give you a trick and a performance, as in a presentation element, the words, the script, but you're not to do it that way. In fact, it's really frowned upon to perform a trick the same as someone else, the same words, the same presentation. So the magic mindset really is inbuilt within that. You have this, here's this thing, this exact method and presentation, but don't do it like that. Be creative, come up with your own version. And often that's as simple as looking at who you are presenting. Well, I wouldn't say it like this. I wouldn't do it like this. I would do it in a different way. My hands wouldn't handle it this way. My hands would handle it this way. My audience would want this rather than this, which puts you into a position of kind of knowing who you are, or in a business situation, it's knowing your business and then knowing your audience, which is the one thing that anyone I've spoken to, and the first thing they'd say to me is, who's your audience? Because that's a fundamental, isn't it, of kind of to define this new thing that you might do. Great, it's new, but who's it for? Because it helps define, define whether it's possible or not.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, I think there's that thing about absolutely knowing your audience is really important, but as important is really knowing yourself. What you said about kind of understanding how you would do things, So actually, then your way of doing things results in it being different. So you're like in magician's terms, you're not copying somebody else. You're giving it your own angle, which kind of makes me think of like the difference between innovation and invention. Innovation actually is taking something and adapting it and making it better. So I think that kind of magic mindset is really nice in terms of innovating, and being kind of understanding yourself means you're confident in what you do. You're kind of in your flow when you're doing it, which in turn is seen and felt by the audience. So there is that trust that's built between you and the audience.
Interestingly,
as a natural trust as well.
Absolutely, exactly. And as a performer, there's processes you go through with a notepad in hand often, or maybe through what we call hot seating or roll on the wall. These are acts as terms to find a character, where you will decide not just from what you say, but from where you've come from, where your character might react in a situation. You design, even if your character, which is many magicians or musicians or someone who's being themselves, they're actually representing an aspect of themselves and exaggerating it. Your character is you, but a great version of you, a confident version of you, a funny version of you, a clever version of you. It's not the crap version, is it? So, and in business, because what's nice is that I'm talking to you because of the business connection. I'm talking to other people because of the business connection, because that's the bits I'm learning, the bits I'm soaking up in business. You're not defining a character, you're writing copy. You're coming up with your elevator pitch, you're coming up with your one-liner. But in a way, you're doing the same thing. You're kind of saying, who, in a nutshell, or in a sellable way, am I? Or is this entity, or is this thing, or is this product? And why is it different to other people? And actually, just in defining that and being confident with that means that things happen in a different way. And so when we've talked about creating content for something I want to do, you know, having a really clear of who I am and my audience limits what content I can make, which means that I'm suddenly being very creative with a very clear guidelines and parameters. Well, I wouldn't do this. You know, I can sit and write streams of jokes and gags, and I have done. And then I realize that's not my character. I don't do cheap gags. I'm the guy who is taking my magic quite seriously. There'll be fun stuff in there, but it's about moving people. It's about connecting with people. It's about the metaphor. And when you realize that, then I can chuck away my notepads of jokes, because that's not the content I'm creating. And I think having that clear understanding and defining of who you are or your business or product helps really with the way you go with it and how you communicate it.
I think I think for me, the most relevant bit is on that individual basis, because that confidence individually is really important. Because if we're thinking about, you know, kind of at the head of the episode, I'm introducing the episode as being, you know, if the only way in which the employer marketing model will be different is, of course, if we do things differently. And there can be a bit of a hamster wheel element of churning out, you know, very safe, very non-opinionated, just very samey content, which I think has had an impact on innovation in the employer marketing world. It's not to say there aren't great pieces of work out there that can be classified as innovative. That's for sure. I'm not saying that at all, but it's about, you know, what can be done to make sure that there is so much more variety in how employees communicate their message to employees, but also to obviously to future employees. And for me, that confidence thing of individuals and, let's say, teams is really important. So kind of that natural inclination is to talk about that piece, is going, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that individual's kind of confidence and how that kind of magic mindset can help someone get that confidence.
Yeah, just in terms of knowing what you're doing has value. I guess that's what it is, isn't it? It's I think, I mean, in terms of creativity, which is always an interesting concept and thought, you know, am I creating something new? Am I just creating content? Am I being creative? And there's a pressure, isn't there, to be inventive and creative, do something different. And that's really hard to define if you don't have a secure foundation of knowing, like we were saying, who you are in order to create something. And I think I'm a real believer in having barriers, having obstacles, or barriers is probably the best way of saying it. Barriers to creativity, to what you're wanting to do. So if, for example, you've got a blank sheet of paper and you're to do a drawing, you can stare at that paper and just go, I don't know where to start. What would I do? But if you were to say, okay, you've got a pencil, you can only you can't take your hand off the page. You're going to do a one-line drawing, and it's going to be something from nature, or even specifically a flower. Well, suddenly you can be creative within that. You can go, oh, well, I could do it this way. I can do it this way. And I think one of those restrictive aspects can be who you are. And so instead of being having that insecurity about, well, who I am and who this person doing this thing, you can have that security that, well, actually, this is me, this is how my business is, or who I want to present myself as. And that restricts how much or what you would do. So you might say, well, if I want to present myself in this way, then I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do this. That gives me these options. Which one of those? And then how would I do it? So actually, and that gives you the confidence to make quite clear choices. Well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I would do this, but how would I do that? Well, I would either do it this way or this way, probably this way. And suddenly your creativity is a step-by-step process. Would I do that? Would I do that? Yes. How would I do that? Well, I could do this and I could do that. Let's try it both ways and see what works. And you're being guided by a security of knowing who you are, understanding what you want to put out, as opposed to kind of going, well, I need to know what the end result is. I need to know what the big picture is. And I can't because it's too big. And I don't dare because it's too different. If you take every step of the way as, how would I authentically respond to this? How would I represent myself in this? Then you'll find your way through the path of being creative and come up with something that has to be unique because you've done it. And it can't be the same as anyone else. Because, and in business, when you start collaborating, which I love, there's a great definition of collaboration, which is finding someone you can disagree with effectively. And in the sense that if I'm working with someone who has different thoughts to me, but we can work together, then what we create is already unique because it's a mixture of both of our ideas that are moving forward. It's difficult.
Absolutely.
So, that's when
that itself requires confidence as well. I think confidence to have that half idea, and I've often said it's that kind of, and I'm sure, definitely stole some of this off one of the God knows how many TED Talks I've heard over the years, but this kind of half ideas rubbing against other half ideas, and the friction that comes from that is, the sparks that come from that is the idea. And I think having that confidence to go, well, that's as far as I can go with that idea at the moment. I don't have anything else. What do you think? And I think that in itself takes a lot of confidence, because I think, it's it's probably when we get past the age of 5, a bit sad. After the age of 5, we then start to get conditioned to get things right. Oh my goodness, I'm talking to someone who works at a school, so this far more than I do, but it's about getting things right all the time, and it's
and there's that amazing thing. I've seen this in many TED Talks, and Elon Musk quotes just jump to mind because he's very good at kind of breaking down school systems and college systems with one well-crafted phrase. But it is that idea that we are conditioned to not only get things right, but answer the question that's given to us. Not question the question, not to say that's a stupid question, ask me a different way. We can't do that in an exam. We have to read the question, assume that it's right, and try and get the right answer they're looking for from us, which is, it's a way of testing certain things, but it's certainly not a way of preparing people for working effectively. But absolutely, I agree with that. From the inside of an educational system, I agree with that. And the confidence is really interesting, because actually one of the processes I went through from this reevaluating what I do during lockdown was the question, how do you build confidence? And I researched this and looked at studies to do with how confidence is built, because I have, for example, 2 students, both of them lacking confidence. And what I learned along the way, which is this part of this cognitive behavioral idea, is that where it's come from isn't relevant. The reason we're lacking confidence doesn't matter. It's what we can do to move forward to build that confidence. We can start from any point and say, okay, so how do we do what we do to move forward, as opposed to kind of going, wow, I think I lack confidence because of this, and I lack confidence because of that. That in a way is irrelevant. It might be interesting, but it's irrelevant in terms of building confidence. And one study showed that the biggest thing was understanding how effective you are. If your self-efficacy, so if you understand how good you are at something, if you overestimate it, then you'll walk into a situation and quite often oversell yourself, which isn't always a bad thing. And that's like, we call that overconfidence. But if you underestimate your efficacy, how good you are at something, you start questioning it and overthinking it, that's when you start losing confidence in an idea, in yourself, in whatever. So, going back to what we were talking about in terms of, okay, so I want to create this thing, this bit of content, it's different to other people, but I know it matches what I do. If you truly believe in that, not in yourself, just in that idea, then can you go, well, can I deliver that? Am I able to put that on? Well, of course you can put it on. And if you believe that it matches who you are and who you're representing, and you feel that you can deliver that, then your self-efficacy, as a tick sheet can go, yeah, I'm confident to put this out there. Of course, you can't be 100% confident it's going to work, and that's maybe when you dig into data and things like that. But in terms of putting it out there, as opposed to going, I can't do this, I'm not confident enough to have a new idea. Well, actually, it's not really to do with you. It's to do with aligning. Can you do it? But yeah, I can do it. Well, of course I can do it. I'm trained to do this. All right, great. And is it aligning with who you are or who your business is or your message? Yeah, because I designed it that way. Great, put it out and see how it goes. And then, it's kind of like going, well, give it a go, jump in the deep end, and then see. And in a way, that does take confidence, but the confidence can come later of kind of going, yeah, it does work. I can do it. I can do it. And then, you do the next thing, don't you?
Absolutely. It's like, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I liken it to, well, I can liken it to a few things, but I liken it to marathon running. It's I used to hate long distance cross country running at school. Oh my goodness, always preferred the sprints, 100 meters, that kind of thing. But discovered long distance running in the early noughties, and then started doing marathons in, I think, 2009 onwards. Now I've got my 14th in Brighton in April. So it's like, I never think about it as running 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
If I did, I think I wouldn't be able to finish it. It's just 4 6-mile runs with a little bit of pain at the end.
Yeah.
To complete the rest of it. It's that you've got to, of course, you've got to have a plan about how you want an outcome to be.
Yeah.
But you can't have that planned out fully until it's actually done.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
And actually, I'm got, goodness me, I think it's the first for the podcast. I'm going to quote Frozen. Now I think it's Frozen 2, and obviously my kids are massive fans, and I'm becoming a fan as well. It's great. I never used to like musicals, but Anna saying, do the next right thing.
Yeah.
As like in a time when she felt everything was lost, and it's like, do the next thing. So I think goes back to what you're saying about just taking those steps, those baby steps, and all you realise when you finish it and you look back is that you ran a marathon, and you realise actually that you could do it, and there might have been a few challenges along the way. There might be confidence at one point and no confidence at another point, but you took the next step.
It's a great analogy, because you don't train for a marathon by running a marathon.
You never. It's very true. Yeah.
So
it's very true.
And when you get longer distances, you can't train for that. If you're going to go out for run for 9 hours, which people do, I have done. I know Rowan.
Yeah, Rowan loves his long distance running,
some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And you train for that, and there's an element that you kind of go, well, I know I can do this much. I know I can do this. And then because you can do that, you then carry on doing it. I mean, with running as an analogy, it's literally one foot in front of the other. And certainly the last mile of a marathon is, that's all you've got in your mind, isn't it? Next foot, next foot, next foot.
Absolutely. I think I remember doing Berlin and having to skip through the Brandenburg Gates, which is the last mile, because I had cramp. But I found a way. There's absolutely no way I'm gonna.
Yeah, well, you find a way.
This.
Yeah,
you just find a way. I may look stupid doing it, but I didn't care.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think is another thing to kind of take from it as well.
Yeah. With the magic mindset, this whole kind of idea of me being a magician, really, there's another analogy there with that when you're doing magic, because the method is hidden, it's a secret. And if the audience would find out how you did it, you would look stupid. And so the boldness to go forward and perform something and saying, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this impossibility thing. I'm going to make this vanish. And then you go and do it. If you get it right, people go, wow. If people get it wrong, you go, well, it's up your sleeve. And there's a huge, step to take to actually to go and take that to a professional. How do you get to that point? Because you can practice and practice and practice, and there's so many amateurs who will get to that point and will never perform. You might perform for the friends and family, and there's many big names, not that other people would know these, but within the magic world there's big names who are creators who have never performed. They've written books, they've created effects, but they don't perform professionally, because actually performing professionally is it's a different thing. It's no longer about the tricks, about the method. It's about, it's about being an actor. Fundamentally, it becomes a different set of skills. And I learned this really early on, that, if I'll go out and I've been doing professional magic, earning money from it from, over 25 years. And someone said to me, it was at a party and I performed something, and someone said, have you ever gotten wrong? Have you ever made a mistake? And I said, no. My wife went, yes. many times. I was like, yes, actually, I possibly once every gig, if I think about it. It's just I'm not bothered about them. It doesn't matter. It's not stopped me from being a magician. It's stopped me from being professional. There's one point I was performing and I dropped my cards everywhere. They just exploded. No idea how. They just exploded on my hand, went everywhere. And I was in the process of finding someone's card, I imagine, as most magic tricks with cards go. And the cards went everywhere, including their card. I scooped them back up, finished the trick, and they loved it. And I was I just finished it with confidence and said, ta-da, type of thing. And they loved it. And the biggest comment was, it's so clever how you, brought that explosion of the cards into it, or, the misdirection of you picking up the cards, or, the way they were telling me the effect. And I just styled it out and went, yeah, that's great. Really stuck in my mind. That was years ago, but that idea that it went wrong, but it didn't matter. It didn't end my career. And even if they kind of went, do you know what, that went. And I've had other times when, I think one of my backup lines has always been, if someone spotted something I've done, it's like, right, this one's for you. I'm going to make up for it, and then you turn it into an opportunity. Okay, yeah, that was a disappointing one. I thought, right, okay, this one's just for you. That's, and you win that person over with the opportunity because they saw. It actually makes them special, So I think that magic mindset, again, is a lovely analogy of kind of going, well, sometimes you just have to go in there, and if you make a mistake, no, you're not going to die. No, it's not the end of your career. It's often just a learning opportunity within the moment.
But that's it, isn't it? You're absolutely right, because you learn a lot from that, and you, as I say, you started out. I think I haven't done it at all in the podcast. I'm gonna do it twice in one episode, which is another Disney film.
Amazing.
Finding Dory, she says, just keep swimming,
Yes.
Just keep going. I think there's that thing about, I find, like, talking to, so a big part of content for employer marketing, employer branding, recruitment marketing, whatever you want to, classification you want to give it, is people talking about their experiences. So filming people, having podcasts, audio, and I've seen it over the years where people can be like, they want it to be perfect what they say. And they, I didn't say that quite right. Oh, that's not quite right. So it doesn't matter, really. Just be yourself. And let's just chat, because otherwise, if you like, even when I've been doing the podcast, is talking to guests, especially people who haven't been on a podcast before, saying, "Don't worry if your cat comes in." Got my cat right here. Actually, she's ready to pounce on me at any second. But don't worry if your cat comes in. Don't say, "Oh, sorry," or don't get flustered. It's not perfect. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. And when you kind of have that mindset of just keeping going, I think you kind of surprise yourself, because you go, "Oh, yeah, wait a minute, that happened," but I still continued.
And often those are nice little moments, especially if you're kind of relaxed into the moment. Being a performer, I get asked to do public speaking things, whether it's hosting a quiz or whether it's presenting things, or just that, oh, here's someone who can handle a microphone. And some of those things, just doing a charity quiz or something like that is a very simple process for me. It's a very easy gig. Someone's given me something to speak, and I'll speak, and in the moment I will roll with things and make comments. And it's not trying to be funny, but anything you say has a lightheartedness to it, adds to the evening. And then you'll always get people saying, "Oh, it's fantastic. You really make the event. How do you do it?" How I could never stand up there and do it, which is really interesting, because I think for me the process is just to kind of do it. There is no other process to it, and I just kind of do it, and then believe that, okay, I'm going to do this, and stand up there and say it and relax into the moment. It doesn't mean I am relaxed, and I'm certainly not confident going into it, although my character I present when I am presenting is of someone who is confident, because confidence builds confidence. If you present confidence, other people feel confident. But it's acting. I'm literally kind of going up there and saying, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, settle down," or whatever I'm saying. Heads down for the next bit of the quiz. And because you're presenting yourself as that person, people buy into it. That's what it is. You are just, there's guaranteed any presenter up on the stage in any situation, especially if they're an avid dinner speaker and they've been a mountain climber, that they're probably worst idea in the world is standing up in front of a businessman and speaking. Give them a mountain any day, but they'll come across because they will be confident with what they're saying. They're in that position and they're owning that moment. And as an audience, we buy into that narrative. That person's this person's that. And I think that's again, another analogy is just bouncing up around my mind about magic, in the sense that the effect that I create and the fact that you see, going back to the explosion of cards on the floor is a great example. What I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to present is only ever half the story. And when people tell other people about the magic I've done, it's always much, much better than the magic I can do and did do. So if I'm talking about card magic because this is what I used to do. It's not what I do now, but it's what I used to do. And there's one effect I always had where I had a signed card, and then I'd go back into the pack. I would show the pack, as in I'd show the pack and the card had gone. I would then remove my shoe, and there'd be a folded card signed in my shoe. That's the bare bones of it. There was needing to be some misdirection on there. There would be some premise and patter around that, but that's the essence of it. Now, when this story is told, because it's a great moment, it's the card was in someone's shoe. I was on the other side of the room. It disappeared from their hands. Everyone on the table signed it, and it was hidden under, the telling of the story. I listen to it. Well, I can't do the effect they're saying, but I will take credit for it. But what's happened is I created what I think the effect is. They received the effect based on the way that they see it, and then in the retelling of it, it becomes something else. So I think that relates to any sort of content stuff we do, or the way we communicate, isn't it? We can present ourselves in the way we want to present ourselves, but how it's received, we don't really have that much control over. And if it's true to us and authentic to us and matches with who we want to be, then we just have to be secure in the fact that this is us, this is what we do, and then how it's
doesn't
received.
land, doesn't land. You go on to the next thing.
Yes,
Learn
exactly.
from it and adapt it.
Yeah.
So whole magic. So having this magic mindset, what can people in the business of producing content in the world of employer marketing learn from having that kind of magic mindset? So what can they do to do things differently? What if we were to choose a few things to bear in mind? And we've covered them already. Good to.
Well, so I think one of the strongest things that we've hit upon is really having a good understanding of who you are and who your audience is. The audience is often the bit that we are asked about and focus on and define, and the who you are, if you know that, or really have a good grasp of who either you are as in terms of your individual voice, or who you are in terms of your product or branding or whatever it is, if you've got a clear understanding of what that is, then it means any decisions you're making can fit into that, can be defined by that. And that gives you security that you're being original, you're being creative. You have to be, because it's only you can do that for your audience. So I think that's a big takeaway. Believe and understand who you are, and then decisions you make in a new venture, a new direction, a new idea, if it fits in with who you are, then it's original because it's your voice. So I think that's a good take.
I think I'll kind of add to that in terms of that confidence in yourself also means that you don't have to have all the answers as well. You don't have to have all the answers. You can have those half ideas, and you go to someone else going, "This is what I'm thinking." It's not a finished essay which I'm looking to be scored. It's a half idea. It's something that's not fully complete, but what do you think? So having the confidence to, I suppose, also have confidence in other people, just to be, I suppose, makes yourself quite vulnerable when going. And that's why kind of think creatives as well. Wills naturally, if you're in a creative type role, then you are very protective over you can be protective over your baby, your idea, but to let it out there and let it be kind of played around with, and adapted is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another good takeaway that we talked about before was this, the idea that we can imagine something, and then if we can imagine it, we can believe in it. And that's a really good way of building confidence and then getting it out there and just doing it. So it's that imagine, believe, achieve, which is not my quote. Don't know where it's come from. It was an unknown, but it felt like it fitted in the magic mindset really nicely, because this is what we do when we create a magic effect. We create a premise, we imagine, and then we create the belief in that. And that's enough for us then to kind of, for then the confidence in what we're doing, to put it out there and achieve and see what happens. So even if it's an idea that I'm sharing with you, I can sit there and write it down on a pad and say, I can imagine this, and then go, no, I like it. I want to say it. I want to own this, and I'll share it with you, and you can say, okay, and then we're moving on. But we would never have got to that point if I hadn't imagined and believed it, what we achieve. So I think that's a nice.
Very true. And I think there's the thing about not feeling you have to have everything all planned out to the nth degree, because outside of theory is where you learn a lot. You put something out there. I think I suppose goes back to that confidence about having kind of maybe half ideas, but it's like that confidence to go, let's say in the context of recruitment. Well, so is what we're doing going to guarantee applications? Well, there's no guarantee.
No guarantee.
Not even that whether you choose your most favorite, your favorite channel to hire people from. There's still no guarantee that you're going to be getting, exactly who you need. but you need to be able to do this kind of thing to achieve these things that then lead you to those applications.
Yeah.
I suppose then it's the confidence to have the conversations with people to say, well, and in yourself to say, well, no, but this is the right way of doing it, where we need to do these things first for us to then make sure the end result is what we want.
Yeah.
Like a bit like marathon running, bit
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Dory, a bit like Anna from Frozen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just do the next
really
thing.
cool if
Do the
we
next
could-
thing.
Yeah. I think the final really good takeaway for me actually was my anecdote about dropping the cards. We can drop the cards. We're allowed to drop the cards, and it's either an opportunity to learn and be humble, or luckily in my situation, it was an opportunity for people to go, oh, I love it when that happened. That was interesting what you did there, and you style it out.
It's true.
But it's owning that moment and knowing you can go out and do a podcast and say the wrong thing or stumble on your words, and do you know what? It's fine. It's great. It's all good. It's all moving forward. So
yeah, lovely. Thank you. No, good stuff.
So would you like to see a bit of magic?
Yeah. Let's go.
So I thought I'd bring this now because this is a podcast. There's a mental element, but there's also a visual element that I will say this is what's happening, and you're just going to have to, for the listeners, tell them if it's true, because there's elements that this could happen in real life with in non-digital world with people looking. So I have a blank piece of paper, thick card here, and a pencil. I'm going to keep this in view the whole time, and I'm going to write a number. Okay. So on here, I write a number. The pencil goes down, but the card remains. So these are visual things that I don't normally explain. It's just so that we know. Now, in your mind, you have a dice or a die, one die, and you're going to roll it and just give it a roll and see what number it lands on. Don't say that number. That's just to check that it wasn't a loaded die. Working? Okay, so you're going to roll it again, and you're going to tell me the number it's landed on. And what number have you got?
4.
4. Now, what's interesting here is that's a 1 in 6 chance, isn't it, that you rolled the number 4. Now, there was a study that was done about intention. If we believe we can control something, then it can change a random computerized number, a random generated number. So this is kind of what we're doing. This is 1 in 6. Roll of a die. You're going to roll it again and see if you get another number. What number would you pull out this time?
2.
2. So that is now 1 in 36. To get that 2-digit number would be 1 in 36. Let's go again. So roll it again. So what number would you get this time?
1.
1.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is now 1 in 216. And finally, let's have one more number.
5.
5. And do you know what the chance of this is? This is 1 in 1,296. Now, for the listeners, the card has been in view the whole time.
It has,
I hold it at my fingertips. There's no way that I have a pencil or anything like this. I'm now going to very slowly turn it round to the camera. Now, can you remember the numbers you rolled?
Yes.
So we had I'm going to roll it, turn this around, and then read them out at the same time. So we had a 4,
2, 1, and 5.
Which is the numbers that you rolled. 1 in 1,002.
I can see it. Yeah.
There we go.
Brilliant.
And what's lovely there, what I talked about right from the beginning, that lovely instant moment, we created this imagined premise. You think of a number, and then I made it happen.
Made it
believe.
happen,
And it's just a lovely little moment for us.
Brilliant. Magic indeed. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the chat.
Fantastic.
We'll catch up soon. Take care.
That's really good. Really good to speak to you.
Thanks, Jasper. Bye now.
All right. Speak again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the chat. If you did, feel free to subscribe to get future episodes, and please do share the podcast with others. It really does make a difference.